Halo the Master Chief Collection is in a very good spot right now. What used to be a deeply flawed collection of games now include more entries in the franchise than ever, all running very smoothly. Not only that, we're even seeing new content being added to these 10 to 15-year-old games, something I and I think many others are truly grateful for. However, bringing in content from a game like Halo Online, which were to expand upon 343's early art direction, into a game like Halo 3, it doesn't come without issues. These helmets were designed with a completely different art style in mind, which is why they look as out of place as they do. So what if they were redesigned to fit the more classic Halo 3 look? It's time to redesign Halo. Greetings, Renaissance here. This is the second part in my Halo Online redesign series. So if you missed part 1, where I redesigned helmets such as the Hive Mind, Warrior and Air Assault, you can either click the link in the description or in the top right corner of this video. Before we begin, as usual, I want to make it clear that I will change some of these designs quite a lot, especially in this video, seeing as most of these helmets are full of lights. Some even go as far as to have lights instead of visors. So most of these non-Halo 3 looking parts will be removed or replaced with visors. With that being said, let's begin. The Infiltrator is a very bright helmet. As it lacks a visor, it tries to make up for this by adding a bunch of lights going across the entire helmet. It also has this very complex mouth and nose piece, which is a bit too busy for the Halo 3 engine. I'll be using the Rogue helmet as my inspiration. I feel like it really shows how a helmet can look both complex and simple at the same time, which is what I'm going for. And this is my redesign. Now, I genuinely tried to keep as much as I could from the original design, which didn't end up being a lot. The most obvious parts being the ears with the lights, the protruding forehead piece, and the 2 lights on top of the helmet, which were simplified. Other than that, the Infiltrator helmet had to be reimagined. I looked at the middle part of the design and tried my best to come up with a visor which wasn't too far away from the shape of the lights and the nose piece. I also made sure to add what I call an eyeliner, the black parts around the visor, which really makes it stand out. The mouthpiece was greatly simplified, since I felt the original was just way too messy for Halo 3's art style. And finally, I made the top and lower part more blocky, to give it that classic Spartan look. The result is a helmet which could almost be considered a new design, but the shape of the Infiltrator is still present. RHINE is one of the standout helmets that were recently added to the MCC, probably because of its striking design. The visor resembles a horn, and the entire design is very spiky and sharp. And just like the Infiltrator, it's filled to the brim with lights. To bring the RHINE helmet back down to earth, I'll be using the Mark 6 as my main source of inspiration, since that's as classic as it gets. And here's my redesign. Fans of the RHINE helmet might be a bit disappointed with my take on the design. I clearly changed the visor a whole lot to be something more traditional. I don't have an issue with the visor per se, it's just the concept of these visors I'm not a fan of. Back in Halo 3, the visors were placed in a way so the user could clearly see through them. You didn't need an excuse like, oh but it's a camera the user is seeing through. They were all very practical, so that's why I gave it a more classic visor. but I made sure to include the horn, as that's what made the original what it was. Other than the visor, I just went over the whole design and simplified the entire thing, removing lights, smoothing out sharp edges, and made it a bit more sleek. The final result is a more realistic version of the RHINE helmet. While it loses some of its originality, it now fits in nicely in the collection of Halo 3 helmets. The COS helmet is one of the more calm helmets out of these. It's not drenched in lights, it's not a very daring design, it's rather safe. The lights it does feature, however, are quite big, while the visor is very thin. Actually, the entire helmet is quite tall and thin. As for my inspiration, I'll be using the Recon helmet. The visors on these helmets are pretty similar, so I feel like it could help the COS quite a lot. And here's my design. First thing you'll probably notice is how I turned most of its lights into vents. I just thought I could utilize these parts of the helmet for something more interesting. The part which had the biggest change, however, is without a doubt the visor. I like the curved look of the nose piece on the original design, so I exaggerated that a bit in my redesign, accidentally giving it sort of a Halo 3 pilot helmet look. I also gave it a simple visor line, inspired by the Recon's visor. Other than that, the helmet still keeps most of the original soul. The result is a design which is different enough to give it a fresh and new coat of paint, but still recognizable enough to see what it was based on. The Hammerhead is really the butt of the joke this season. As the name implies, the entire helmet is shaped like a hammer, being very top heavy and a lot thinner at the bottom. The visor is also unusually high up, making it a bit difficult for the user to actually see through it. And lastly, the helmet also features a prominent mouthpiece. My inspiration for this helmet will mostly be the EOD, since that helmet has a similar overall shape. And here's my redesign. In case you missed it, I actually livestreamed me making this redesign, and in that way, this is as much my redesign as it is yours. You guys really put me on the right path with the Hammerhead, so pat yourselves on the back. For instance, the EOD-esque tubes on the sides was your idea, and it really gives the helmet a balanced look. The entire helmet was also squashed a bit, giving it more a normal shape. The visor was kept mostly the same, but was brought down quite a lot to make it look more practical. Another change you guys requested was the lights on the ears, giving the hammer part of the head purpose. Lastly, I just removed a bunch of unnecessary detail and made everything more smooth. The Hammerhead was somehow changed from a rather silly looking helmet into something I might actually wear in game. That's all thanks to you. As the Forerunner name implies, the NOMDAGRO helmet seems it's not from this world. It's vastly different from even the rest of the Halo line helmets, with its extremely angular look, and yet again, overabundance of lights. Unlike the Infiltrator, the NOMDAGRO lacks a visor, and instead chooses to go with a circular light in the middle. Now, the NOMDAGRO can't be treated like the other helmets. It needs special treatment. It needs some inspiration from Hayabusa. And this is my redesign. What's left from the original design is the protruding parts of the ears and the top part. Everything else is more or less changed. I mainly focused on including the smooth and wavy parts seen in the Hayabusa helmet, to slowly but surely move away from the very angular look of the original. One issue I had was the visor. Even though I'm generally against it, I knew I somehow had to keep the circular shape of the visor, to not stray too far away from the source material. And like the hive mind from the previous episode, I solved that by making it look like a sort of visor attachment. And finally, I added some small lights to not completely abandon the original's design language. The result is a very different, but still recognizable redesign, which keeps the necessary parts while changing what didn't work about the original. The final helmet I'll be redesigning is the Lancer. This is yet again a helmet which replaces its visor with the lights. But this time it's more controlled, giving it a more traditional look. My inspiration will yet again be Recon, as I think its eyeliner could do wonders with this helmet. And here's my design. As you might have guessed, I replaced the lights with a real visor, but still staying true to the original shape. I gave it a clear eyeliner to make the visor pop, and made the 3 holes on it a bit bigger. The top part was overhauled quite a bit, making it more coherent and simple. I also thought I could use more black parts, and repeated the vent pattern seen at the bottom of the helmet. And finally, I gave it a simple visor line, to fill the huge visor with some detail. The result is a rather unique helmet still, but improves the shape as well as the detail. And there we have it. Those were all the redesigns I made for this video. All very different from the source material, while still keeping what made those helmets unique in the first place. Let me know what you think of these designs. Did I succeed in making them fit Halo 3's art style? Which one is your favorite? And there are still some Halo Online helmets I haven't redesigned, so let me know if you'd like to see those as well. This is usually where I show the amazing designs you've made based on my work. But seeing as most of it's from my redesigning Promethean weapons video, I'll be saving those for part 2 of that. If you like this video, give it a like. If not, a dislike. And let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I wish you all the best, and take care. Vernissage, out.